Hey, Brook Scholars. Welcome back to Remote Learning with me, Mr. Scott. How are you? Happy Monday, May 18th. I hope you had a wonderful weekend. It was some nice weather, so I hope you got outside, got to take a walk or do something. I'm wearing this slightly outrageous London hat because the big news for me is that I shaved my head. I know. It's a wild new. It's still me. It's still Mr. Scott. Okay. Yeah, I know. It looks quite ridiculous. Actually, to be honest, my wife and my daughters shaved my head, but yeah, no more of the crazy hair all over the place. But now I look, almost bald. So that's fun. Anyway, let's get into today's reading lesson. I am so excited for this one. I really am. I found this article recently, and I literally did not believe it. Like I read through it, and I was like, no, 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 no. So we'll talk all about this remarkable reading in just a moment. But today I want to talk to you not about annotations, but today I want to talk to you about the blurb. Now, we've looked at blurbs a little bit during this time of distance learning. Do you remember what a blurb is? What is it? Hmm? Hmm? Right. It's like an introduction. It gives you the information that you need in order to get your brain ready to take on all of the new information that you get typically from a non-fiction article. It doesn't always have to be non-fiction. You do find blurbs for fiction articles sometimes as well. But they are particularly helpful because they give you a lot of information, as I said. And that information can help you understand what it is you're going to learn in that article. So here is the blurb. Let's read it and see what we've got. Jean-Francois Gravelet was born in 1824. He called himself the Great Blondin and performed some of the most famous balancing acts ever. His stunts, which included cooking his breakfast on a stove while he stood on a very high tightrope, were so extraordinary that his daring feats are still remembered today. Wow, that is a lot of information. Let's stop and think about what we got just from the blurb. We've got this man, Jean Francois Gravelet. He was born a long, long time ago. He called himself the Great Blondin, and he performed some incredible balancing acts. He would get up on a tightrope. Now, I thought I'd heard of most famous daredevils. I've heard about people that want to break world records and, travel really, really fast in cars and, acrobats and things like that. But I'd never, ever heard of this guy. And in fact, when I read this part about him cooking breakfast on a tightrope, you know what a tightrope is, right? Like one of those like circus acts. It's like really, really high wire, and then someone walks across it. But when I read that he cooked his breakfast while standing on a tightrope, I had to Google it. I was like, there's no way. That is not real. Well, listen, my friends, this is a short article. It doesn't give you a whole lot of information about the Great Blondin. But if you're interested, I highly recommend some YouTube videos or check it out on YouTube. Try and get some more information because this guy did some absolutely crazy stuff. He was very, very, very talented at what he did. Let's read this article, get you ready to answer some questions. Are you ready? Here we go. Let's jump in. A daredevil performer. Blondin, the celebrated tightrope walker, died in London at the age of 73. The performance which made him famous was the crossing of Niagara Falls on the tightrope. Blondin was a Frenchman, who his father having been one of Napoleon's soldiers. A story is told of him that when he was 5 years old, he saw an acrobat performing on a tightrope. He was so pleased with what he saw that when he got home, he stretched a rope between two posts, and as soon as his mother was out of the way, took his father's fishing rod and using it as a balancing pole, made his first appearance as a tightrope walker. He was trained as an acrobat and for tightrope walking, and came to this country with a troupe of pantomimists, or people who act through body movements. While here, he visited Niagara Falls, and the idea at once struck him that if he dared to cross those terrible waters on a rope, his fortune would be made. He made up his mind to try it and stayed in the village of Niagara for weeks until he learned just how it would be possible for him to perform the feat. Then he set about getting the scheme well advertised and securing plenty of money for himself if he succeeded in accomplishing it. On August 17th, 1859, he made the trip across the falls in the presence of 50,000 spectators. His rope was 175 feet above the waters. He was not satisfied with merely walking across. He crossed it again blindfolded, and then carrying a man on his back, and once again wheeling a barrow cart before him. In the summer of 1860, he crossed once more in the presence of the Prince of Wales and carried a man on his back. Wow. Well, here's a few things that I can tell you, my friends. I can tell you, believe it or not, although it's quite difficult to believe, this is an NF. It's a non-fiction piece, even though I thought someone just made this up. I didn't think this could actually happen. Non-fiction, not only that, it's a biography. So let's think about what we have learned. It's time to stop and think. Here we go. So you've got this man, he is born, and when he is a little boy, he sees a tightrope walker and decides, I'm going to do that. And so he practices a lot when he's young, and then as he's growing up, he continues to practice until finally he gets really, really good at what he does, and he decides he wants to perform an incredible act. An act that will make him famous, an act that will get him money, an act that will have us hundreds of years later still talking about him. And that act was to go to Niagara Falls. Now, I've been to Niagara Falls. In fact, I used to live somewhat near Niagara Falls, and so I've been there many, many times. It's a beautiful place to go. It's also an incredibly dangerous place because you have millions of gallons of water pouring over these falls, and it's very, very big. It's quite the spectacle. I highly recommend it. Again, if you're not familiar with Niagara Falls, you can also look it up on the internet, get some pictures, try and get a better understanding of why what this guy did was so incredibly fantastic. So anyway, he decides he's going to pull off this stunt. He's going to put his wire, he's going to put it between the 2 points of the Niagara Falls, and he's going to cross all the way over it. And he does, and lots of people come. 50,000 spectators come to check out what he did. And it's really, really incredible. And he does it. But then he decides, I walked across Niagara Falls. I can do better than that. So then he did it blindfolded, and then he did it with a wheelbarrow, which is, when I read that, I was like, someone's making this up. You cannot put a wheelbarrow. Do you know what a wheelbarrow is? Something that you would use to put lots of gardening tools and things like that in. And he puts a wheelbarrow on the tightrope and goes across. The picture doesn't show it here, but it's absolutely incredible. And then he puts another person on his back and then walks across like that. Absolutely incredible. And so, a real sensation. This man from France, Jean-Francois Gravelet. Incredible, my friends. Okay, well, thank you so much for tuning in today. Remember that when there is a blurb, it is incredibly important that you read that blurb and stop and think about how am I going to get my brain ready to take on this new information. The blurb gave us lots and lots of wonderful information here, and excuse me. And every time you see a blurb, make sure you don't skip over it. A lot of people would have skipped over the title, skipped over the blurb, skipped over even this excuse me, incredible picture and just started in reading. You got to read the blurb because it gets your brain ready to take on new information. All right, my friends, go and complete the answers to the questions below and the short answers, as well as the multiple choice, and then take a picture, put it up on Seesaw. The second grade teachers cannot wait to see your incredible work. Have yourselves a wonderful rest of the day, and I will see you back here tomorrow. From me, the ultimate champion, Mr. Scott, on the world's greatest YouTube channel with all these wonderful second grade teachers. We love you. We miss you. Have fun. Bye.